Okay, you're live.
Thank you. Good afternoon. This is the regular meeting of the Athens-Clarke County Board of Election and Voter Registration. It is January the 11th, 2022, and the time is 4:33 p.m. Due to COVID-19 precautions, this meeting will be live streamed. So thank everyone for coming, and we'll get started if Adam would read the board oath for us.
I do swear or affirm that I will, as a member of the Board of Elections, duly attend all ensuing primaries and elections during the continuance thereof, that I will, to the best of my ability, prevent any fraud, deceit, or abuse in carrying on the same, that I will make a true and perfect return of such primaries and elections, and that I will at all times truly, impartially, and faithfully perform my duties in accordance with Georgia laws to the best of my judgment and ability.
Thank you, Adam. At this point, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
Make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Thank you, Ann.
Second, since Ann couldn't see my hand.
Right. And thank you, Rocky. So it has been properly seconded that we adopt the agenda. So all of those in favor signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Aye.
Aye.
I'm raising my hand. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. That is unanimous. Thank you all. The next order of business is approval of the minutes from December the 14th. So if you all would take a second or minute to look over those and see if we have any corrections or anything else going on with them. At that point, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the minutes from the December 14, 2021 meeting.
Do I have a second? Ann, did you raise your hand?
Yeah, I did. I raised my hand.
Thank you. So it has been properly moved into second that we approve of the minutes of the December 14th meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye. So it is.
Sorry. I have a question. I'm really sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
I was not at the December 14th meeting, and perhaps I'm looking at the wrong thing. Does it show those present and those absent in the minutes?
I will double check the attached email we were sent. My version of the minutes does, but maybe something got lost in translation. Just a moment.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to throw a wrench in the whole thing here, but
I'm glad you brought that up. Certainly we want them to be correct.
Yeah, I was not present.
Adam nor Hank.
Either, so
I'm not.
I have to abstain.
Rocky nor Hank was at that meeting.
yeah, I'm looking at the attachment we received yesterday or 2 days ago, and I just don't see it, but I possibly could be missing it.
I'm very sorry. The email that I received also has the agenda, what looks like twice. So that must have been my mistake in emailing that to staff. I'm happy to email that to everyone right now, but maybe, what do you think, Madam Chair? Just wait until February to approve those minutes?
That probably would be more expedient if there are no objections. And Adam, if you would withdraw your motion and maybe perhaps make another motion to do this in the February meeting.
Yes, ma'am. I'm not sure. Maybe I might do this not the best parliamentarily, but I've moved to table this until the February meeting.
Yeah,
I second.
thank you. So
I
we're,
was just gonna say that I was gonna abstain, so if you guys want to approve it, there's nothing for me to review. But I wasn't gonna vote since I wasn't there.
Yeah, same here.
I don't know if that changes it. If the three of you want to just approve it, it's up to you.
we'll go ahead and or we can go one or two ways. We can table it, or we can ask for it to be reprinted and include, I'm sorry, the fact that you nor Hank were there would be entered into the minutes. And we would approve it it would be approved pending on that being added.
I say let's do the latter, that we say it would be approved when it is made correct. That way we don't have something else on our agenda for the next month.
Good suggestion, Ann. Can I get a motion on that?
I
Madam
make a
Chair,
motion.
Ann,
Go ahead.
I was talking.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ms. Till.
I don't know that it'll be as elegant as yours, but I'll make a motion that we correct the minutes from December 14th to reflect the absence of members. And at that time, it would be tentatively approved.
I'll second that motion to get to the discussion if that's okay.
Yes, it is.
And I have a question, and I guess some clarification. At least from what I'm seeing, the problem here is not that the minutes are incorrect, is that they
No.
weren't sent. And they're not included in the packet. And so the minutes that I have a copy of on my, as the secretary, correctly does show the attendance, but y'all don't have that. So you just have to take my word for it. But rather than have us take anyone's word for it, I could email them out right now and we could all look them over. But I wasn't sure if since we don't need to rush this, right? This is the minutes. They are what they are. The video is what the video is. We could hold off on this, but of course, whatever's easiest for everyone. I just want to be, transparent, because no one technically has had a chance to see those minutes that we'll be voting on, except for me. So.
Okay.
Madam Chair, if I may
Yes,
speak,
please. Please.
I would advise that you all wait to adopt the minutes until everyone voting on the minutes has had a chance to actually see them, so that Mr. Shirley can email out the correct copy.
Thank you. And since we have time to do that, let's not do that here, but let's mail it out sometime after this meeting, and shouldn't take but a few minutes to approve it, since we probably will have all looked over it and had an opportunity to read it and see what was going on. So, Ms. Teal, if you would like to withdraw your motion.
I will withdraw my motion to be expedient, and let's go the long road. That's fine.
Adam, I saw you had your hand up.
Yes, ma'am. I was just want to clarify that, because I was typing something else as Attorney Pappas was saying that. So I wanted to be sure I heard that right. So I have the motion being withdrawn by Ann.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then there was, I guess, the motion I still have on there was the motion to table the approval of the minutes. That had been seconded by Rocky, I think, that we had kind of left on the table.
Yeah, we did not take up that matter.
Okay.
Okay. So.
Adam, I don't know what we would do without you.
Well, you'd have a copy of the minutes to see, for starters, because I wouldn't have made that mistake if it weren't me here. So, but thank you.
You do good work, Adam.
None of us are envious of your job. You do excellent work. You really do. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Attorney Pappas, is it okay if we go circle back around to that motion and push it forward? The one that said the table, or should we do it differently?
I would just renew the motion to table the minutes and then you can vote on it.
Okay. Adam, I believe that was your motion. You would like to renew that?
Yes, ma'am. I've never done that before. I'll just say what it sounds like. I renew the motion to table the motion to approve the minutes from the December meeting and table it to the February 2022 meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second. That's a lot of words, but second.
Yeah. Thank you. All those in favor, would you signify by saying aye or raise your hand? Aye.
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 It is unanimous. Okay, let me pull our agenda up. Could someone please pull up the public comment, and the public comment, the written comments may be emailed to the board members or delivered to the Athens-Clarke County Board of Elections and voter registration office before the start of the meeting. And I believe we have at least one public comment. Adam, could you pull that up for us and read it?
Yes, ma'am. I have one that came from Miss Elsner. Is that the same one you're talking about?
Yes, it is.
All right. This email, pull it up, reads as follows. Dear members of the Athens-Clarke County Board of Elections and Voter Registration, I see on the agenda for the January 11, 2022 meeting this item. New business, number 2, election of board leadership for 2022. I have attended most of the virtual meetings of the Board of Elections during 2021, conducting business under the board leadership approved in January 2021. Each current member's term goes through at least December 31, 2022. Mr. Raffles and Ms. Tills expire on that date. Your cooperation, collaboration, collegial demeanor towards one another and the election staff has been invaluable. If the current slate of officers is willing to serve once more in 2022, I hope the board will consider electing them once more. My sincere thanks for your dedication and service to our county. Sincerely, Jacqueline Elsner.
Thank you, Ms. Elsner, for your comment, and thank you, Adam, for reading that for us. At this time, we will have the director's report.
Good afternoon, board, and shall I say, go dogs. But I didn't mean to, because I have an Alabama fan in my office right now, so I can't help it. It's the excitement. So yes, what I have for you today are a few items. First, starting with our activity report. If you will look through your packet, you will see that the total number of voters that we have for this month is 72,776. 8,228 are inactive. That gives us a total eligible voters of 81,004. We had 116 cancellations this month. Those cancellations consist of 34 voters who have moved out of state, 25 are felony removals, and 57 are vital records verifications that were a complete match. And of course, we have issued 40 voter IDs, which is lower than we've had in the past. And that's possibly because of the election, because this would have included that number, because this was the numbers from December 1 or December 2021. So it looks like the month before that it was pretty low too. And again, I'm thinking it's attributed to the election. Okay, the next thing is the first quarter of 2022 is a new year. So there are goals that I have set for me and staff. So we are preparing for the redistricting process right now. And if you're aware, the General Assembly convened yesterday, started. And so from that point, we will wait to hear from them as to what maps will be approved and signed by the governor. And once we receive that data, we will work with GIS, who is graciously working with us to try to come up with a process so we can make our changes in our ElectionNet system so that we can have a transition, a smooth transition from our old district combos to our new district combos. And those combos consist of all the different districts that a voter can be in, whereas if it's the US Congress, the state and state Senate and House of Representative, the commission districts and the school districts, which those are voted by district. So as soon as we get the information, we're going to be all hands on deck, and we're going to probably work some later hours to make sure that we meet the Secretary of State's deadline, which is February 18th. And we will have all of our districts in place so that, number one, the candidates can qualify, and number two, the voters will know who will actually be representing them. By law, we have to get voter registration cards out to our voters, and that will require us, again, making all of these changes in our ENET. We want to make sure also that we have the correct information. We want to make sure that voters are in the correct districts. So we have set up a process here in the office that consists of data entry people, and then we have an audit team. And then there's going to be another set of auditors, which is me and Pam. We're going to look at it before we actually say we're going to go live with the Secretary of State's office, and then the cards will be issued. So we got a plan. Okay. The next thing is the submission of the operating budget for FY23. January 5th was the deadline that our budgets should be presented. And the request totals $1,248,601. And that request includes operation, personal, and indirect expenses. There are two initiatives that were submitted on December 10th that I mentioned to you last month. And in that request, I included your pay adjustment. And I want to just mention that typically when there is a pay adjustment on boards, it's usually done during the budget process rather than in the middle of a budget. So I did include that. And what I would like to ask of you, the board, today is if you would vote on what I've recommended, if you so approve it, and we will go with that. And I'm ready to give you the numbers of what I recommend for you to have as your pay. So rather than $25 per diem, we raised that to $200 a month. So that means that regardless of how many meetings you have each month, you'll get paid $200 rather than $25 per meeting. And then sometimes you have, of course, more than one meeting, but this is an increase from that amount. On election day, normally you are paid $15 an hour. And so I've raised that to $200 per election, for election day. And yes, and then election certification day, it will be $100 per election. And then your conference will be $150 per day, which you usually get $15 an hour, I believe, is what you normally get. So that's a little increase there. And so your total cost for the elections constitution pay would be $17,250 per person. I think that's right. Yes, I think that's right. $17,250. I'm sorry, $17,250 total. That's the cost.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's almost what the commissioners make.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Trying to
I didn't make that sound right.
I was like,
Yeah, so moved.
I was like, sign me up. Okay, but yes, I would like to have your vote on that today. And though it's already been submitted, I know that if I need to change anything, I'm sure they will allow me to do that. And Nikki, our assistant city manager, is here. And if you have any questions, he's going to answer those for you as well. He will give a little more input if needed.
Charlotte, if I may, real quick, just note that we were able to come to these numbers by the comparative analysis that you were instructed to do from the Board of Elections. So we use those other municipalities to kind of come to this number.
I'm a visual reader person. Is there a little chart or breakdown you could send us? It's hard to, you know.
Yes, so I'll have to send that to you. It's funny because I can't find it, but the
Okay.
good thing is I made a copy of it, and I'm trying to figure out how did I save it. I don't know how I saved it, but I do have a copy, and yeah, I've scanned everything, and so anyway, I'll get this redone, and I'll send that to you guys shortly after the meeting. Okay.
Rocky?
Madam Chair, I had a comment / question. I have, in general practice in my life, day rates are concerning to me sometimes, because, you know, day rate is great if the operation runs as normal, but day rates are not that great when operations go off from the plan. So that's something to consider. You know, if we have a perfect normal election every time, then that's great. But this is Georgia, so the chances of that happening are, so just something to think about as we talk about it.
Thank you, Rocky. Attorney Pappas, as we consider voting on this, is that something we should put on the agenda, or is it okay that the director has asked us to vote on this, and that we should go ahead and vote it up or vote it down?
I would advise that you wait voting on it until you can place it on an agenda.
Okay.
And also, since Mr. Raffle has asked for a copy of it to be sent to you all, that way you all can better digest it. But I would advise waiting until next meeting.
Thank you. Director Salisbury, will that fit in with your timeline?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Okay, the next item is poll worker recruitment. I'm really excited about this because in a meeting today with the U.S. Elections Assistant Commission, where I serve on the advisory council, I found out that January 25th is National Poll Worker Recruitment Day.
Wow.
And we've been talking about poll worker recruitment. I mean, we've done things like we've had little round table discussions. We've talked about collaborating with the high schools and going to some of the sporting events, particularly the basketball games right now with our high schools, to recruit some young folks, some 16-year-olds, because you can be a poll worker at the age of 16. As well, there could be some parents or teachers that might want to work as a poll worker. So we've got that. We're going to conduct a voter registration drive and a poll worker recruitment campaign leading up to our May election. So it is our hope that we will have that all in place and our poll workers can be trained, ample amount of time to get them trained and get them hired and ready to work if possible, hopefully during the advanced voting process, but if not, election day. So we're going to be issuing some kind of email or something that's going to come to you all, that we'll have something posted on our Facebook page, our website, leading up to the 25th, because we're going to really put a little extra into what we're doing as far as poll worker recruitment. We're going to do something fun. And we'll have that information to you via email, but it'll be on the 25th. And then the next thing is the Secretary of State introduced a couple of weeks ago that they will be replacing the ElectionNet system, which is the voter registration system, not the elections equipment, but the voter registration system. And it's going to be replaced with what they're referring to as Jarvis. And I was selected to work on the working group. And it looks like it's going to be a very good engine for us. And it stands for Georgia Registered Voters Information System. And this system is, again, being worked on now. It will be implemented just before qualifying or immediately after qualifying. But we're all, a lot of us are really excited because this particular engine is going to do a little bit more for us than what we've been doing. We're going to be able to get reports. Some of the reports that we get requests for, there's just no way to get it. There's no application that allows us to do different kinds of reports. Well, we'll have access to our own data. It won't be with a different company like it is now. When we need something, we can get it right there because it'll be our data. Whatever we want to do with our data, we can do it. We don't have to go through a third party to get it. So I'm excited about that. Let's see. I did not include this on your agenda, but I do need your help. So we would like for you to help us with qualifying. And what I mean by that is those of you who are party appointees, we're going to be sending a notice out to our local parties in the next couple of days for their option of how they would like to do qualifying for the primary candidates or the partisan candidates, which we will only have one, which is the Solicitor General. But we want to know if the parties want to conduct their own qualifying or if they want us to conduct their qualifying. And I want to put this information in my second notice that will go out prior to February 1st, which by law 21-2-131 requires us to publish those qualifying fees no later than February 1st. So we're going to send out a preliminary notice just to say these are the qualifying fees. But in our second notice, we're going to say these are the qualifying fees. And if you're qualifying, you need to qualify here or there. So that's what we're going to do with qualifying. And I need your help, the Democratic and Republican appointee.
Director Sosby, I believe Rocky has a question.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a request. When that letter goes out, could you, one, confirm who you're sending it to and send me a carbon copy of it, please?
I sure will. And I have an email address that I can kind of talk with you a little later to find out if that's the correct email address that I need to send it to.
Yeah, you can call me tomorrow if you'd like, and we can work through it. So just let me know.
Okay, I'll do that. And I appreciate y'all helping with it.
I'd like to have a copy also. Thank you.
Okay, I'll definitely do that. All right, and then let's see. There are 3 open record requests that we completed, and the copies are there in your packet. And I want to commend our new elections assistant for her jumping on board and catching these open records requests. It's the process, and we're trying to transition, very smoothly. And I just want to commend her. That's Audra Taylor for her getting these open records requests ready. And in addition to that, I want to commend Lisa, who has been helping out with the open records request prior to Audra taking her position. So thank you, ladies.
Thank you all.
Yeah, because you make me look good, make the board look good. So we got to let y'all know how much we appreciate you. All right. And other than that, I don't have anything else. If you have questions, I'll be glad to answer those. But thank you.
Thank you, Director Sosby. As she has asked us, oh, Adam, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thank you, ma'am. I was curious, Director Sosby, with the redistricting logistics, once whatever the maps are, once they get signed and as part of our process, what do you think would the process be for renaming them? Not moving things around. I appreciate the wisdom in let's leave them where they are, but as far as like, what was 7B might not make sense anymore as 7B, right? Is that how complicated is that, or is it simply a matter of changing the names on y'all's end?
We could do that while we're doing the redistricting process. And one of the things that I liked about my former county is the precinct was named after where the location was. For instance, like 1A is Winterville Train Depot. Depot, we would call it Winterville Precinct. And then like the tennis center, we would call it the tennis center, So, and that made it easy because not only were you learning where the locations were, you could have an idea of what was actually what it was composed of, I guess that's what you could say. So yeah, I like that. The other side of that is this. When I first came here, there were some precincts that were combined, like 5A and 5B, and they were combined because one of the locations were being remodeled. It was easy for us to recognize that 5A and 5B at one point was precinct 5, right? So when we got ready to join them, all we had to do was just join them, and it was 5A, 5B. And then when we got ready to split them, it was 5A alone and 5B alone. So what I would suggest, if we had to do something like that, let's say if we were going to combine Winterville Tennis Center, we would name it Winterville/Tennis Center, but we would leave the lines just in case we need to split them back up again. So I learned a lot when I came here because, combining precincts, we just combined them. But in a sense, we combine them, but we keep them separate. So.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. And then, so just to wrap up then, I'm not at all, and I understand that we're not at all. Just someone tuning in might have heard us just say moving the lines. Like I'm not, and you're not talking about, reconsidering where the precincts are drawn. I just wanted to think about the naming of things. So that's really good to know. Thank you, ma'am.
Are there any other questions for Director Sosby?
I would just like to thank Director Sosby and all of her staff for the excellent work they do.
Yes, they do. Thank you, guys.
We just all love what we do.
We can tell.
Tell.
Okay, we've had the director's report, so we're going to go to old business. And if you notice, there are some lines drawn through some items, and there's some dates on it, or it will tell you why we aren't addressing those right now, and that's 1 and 2. So we'll go down to 3. Operations and personnel budget staff, and A, including pay increase for manager and assistant manager poll workers. Rocky? You're mute.
Thank you. Sorry, this is completely out of place. Procedural question. Is it too late to amend the agenda going forward? 1. There was a discussion that happened over email that I thought we could have a discussion on in a general sense. So if I could get an answer to those 2 questions, then I'll.
Okay, I think.
Otherwise, it could wait till next month, I guess.
I think the first question was, is it too late to amend the agenda? I think that if you put that, and Attorney Pappas can correct me, I think that if you put that in the form of a motion, we might probably could do that.
That's correct, Madam Chair. You can amend the agenda by motion.
So before we take up the business of 3, you want to go ahead and.
Yeah, so Well, it's a separate issue. So I move to include under new business, I would assume,
Mhm.
the discussion of poll worker personnel. In the general sense, there was a conversation that happened over email, and I just wanted to see if we could discuss that.
Okay. And it's outside of what we're doing in 3? Is it
Yeah,
kind of
it's a
old business
new issue, so
issue? Okay,
yeah.
okay. Adam?
I second the motion.
Okay. The motion has put before the floor and it's been seconded. All those in favor, would you signify by saying aye and or raise your hand?
Aye.
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 It's unanimous. So that will be put as number 3 under new business.
Thank you, and I apologize for not, I spaced at the beginning. We could have done this earlier, so sorry to interrupt.
It's not a problem. It's not a problem, just as long as we're procedurally correct. So thank you, Rocky. Okay, and I can't quite remember the conversations that we were having for number 3 under operation and personnel budget staff. Do we have any references on that? Rocky?
Apologies. First of all, I have a toddler screaming in the background, so hopefully you can't hear that. Is this about the pay increase that I had suggested a ways back? That's what I'm assuming it is, but it says staff after it, so. Well, I mean, is it different than the one that's crossed out?
Adam?
I'm sorry for the confusion. I think what we're seeing here is, we had a brief meeting in December because not all of us could be here, and then we had that election. Oh, by the way, so I know, this is reaching back to November. Something about this made it a separate issue, distinct from the other item about waiting for the pay study. I wasn't sure, and when Chair Fambro and I were talking about the agenda, neither one of us could remember categorically why we should strike it from the agenda. It was just there already in my draft, so that's why it's there.
Well, okay. So regardless, I still support the 50 cents differential between the 3 positions as an interim solution until the pay study is done, which there probably won't even be an election, but those are famous last words.
Okay, so I'm sure that there's still some jangling edges on that. Does anyone else have any comments or suggestions? Adam?
I'm sorry, I saw Hank. He was muted, though. I believe he would try to speak.
I did not see him. I'm sorry, Hank.
Sorry, I was just going to ask Director Sosby for a comment on what just Rocky mentioned, but maybe Adam, you can go ahead and ask your question. Okay.
If I may add, in my budget request, the department budgets request, I did take the information that you gave, where there's a graduation of $16 an hour for the manager, $15.50 for the assistant manager, and $15 for the clerk. So FY23 does include that. And so if it's different, it'll have to come from the pay study for sure.
I think that's what I was intending on moving towards recommending anyway. I still believe it should be higher, but that's where we're at now. So I think it does make a difference, a small difference at least.
Yeah.
What's the word? At least it shows that we're trying to distinguish the 3 levels of
Right.
staffing we use
Oh.
on election day.
3 levels of responsibility. Yeah, I agree with you, Rocky. So since Director Soulsby has said that that's the way it's entered into the budget. So at this point, will it be resolved to the fact that we'll be waiting on what the outcome is? And if we have to take some further action on that, we can do it at another time so we can close out this piece of old business.
And that pay increase would take place after July 1.
Okay. Rocky, did I see your hand?
Do we need to move to formally put this into place, or is it just going to happen by default to the budget?
We could make a motion to have it taken off to taken off of the agenda, pending the budget outcome in July.
Because we do have a primary in May, so I really would like to see it enacted for that May primary.
You know what you have to do to get that?
I move.
Yep.
If you'd like me to do that, I'm ready to do that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'll just do what we need to do.
Yeah. I mean,
all right.
If that's your choice, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So I move that we effective immediately change the poll worker pay from $15 for clerk, $15 an hour to, and then for assistant manager, $15.50, $16 an hour for manager, effective immediately. The end.
Do I have a second? Adam? We have a motion on the floor and it has been second. Oh, I'm sorry, Adam. I didn't see your hand.
Thank you, ma'am. I was just wanted to speak to the motion.
Okay.
I'm curious. I'm just like Rocky was saying earlier. I'm all for the intent and I'm all for this. Our hearts are in the right place with this. And I think we all agree on that. I'm just curious about the nuts and bolts here, whether to what extent the ship has sailed with respect to contingencies, or if this is, and I might be wrong here, but I think I've learned over the past year that the budget, the allocation that we have been given, there is some, I'll say, discretionary, just some discretion permitted to us. And if that's the case, I'm building a mountain of ifs here. If that's the case, do we have, I would be curious, do we have the room right now in the director's estimation with our existing this fiscal year budget before we go ahead with this motion? I support the idea of the motion. I just don't want us to have to rob from Peter to pay Paul, if that makes sense.
And I do see, I'm just pausing here to tell Hank and Rocky, I see your hands, but I think that the question is directed toward Director Soulsby.
We have sailed that ship. I'm just going to say that as far as where we are in our budget as it relates to our part-time seasonal workers, because of the November election that was not in our budget. There was I'm going to say it was budgeted for a Winterville election, but not a countywide election. So there's going to be a need for us to address the mayor and commission for a contingency. So to say if we have it in our budget now, we don't. Basically.
Thank you.
And if I may, Madam Chair, just to wrap up my item real quick.
I'm going to have to go in order of when I saw people, and I saw Hank first, then I saw Rocky, and then I saw Adam.
My question was just answered by Director Soulsby, so go ahead, Rocky.
Thank you.
I actually wanted to make a revision to my motion. Is this an appropriate place to do that?
Yes.
And the director already alluded to what I'm going to say anyway, which I should have said first, and then that could have cut this whole conversation off. But I'd like to revise my motion to include those pay increases that I already spelled out. And if there is not enough money in the budget, to ask the mayor and commission for sufficient funding to make that so we can pay that amount.
Okay. Adam, we're still having discussion here.
Thank you, ma'am. I guess first to make sure I hear, I want to capture what Rocky's saying. Let's see, contingency request to the mayor and commission. So, Rocky, does this sound right? Motion by Mr. Raffle to, effective immediately, change poll worker pay to $15 per hour for clerk, $15.50 per hour for assistant manager, $16 per hour for manager by submitting contingency request to the mayor and commission if necessary. Does that get at what you were getting at?
I guess we can say, really what we could say is ask the mayor and commission for sufficient funding, period. If
Okay.
there's no money in the budget, or
Gotcha. I see.
however you want to word it. It's my intention is effective immediately. If we don't have the money in our bucket, go get it from the mayor and commission so we can pay these people. That's my wish.
Understood. All right. I'm sorry, Madam Chair. This was not what I was initially wanting to ask about, but since we had to update the motion. So I have this. Let me run it by you again, Rocky, just to be sure. Motion by Mr. Raffle to ask the mayor and commission to, effective immediately, change the poll worker pay and everything I just said with the numbers. Is that what you're?
Yeah, for sufficient funding, period.
Okay. Provide. So thank you. Okay. So thank you, Madam Chair. I was going to ask then, what dollar amount ish ballpark? I know I don't want to put the director on the spot here, but what amount would we estimate if we had to do it all over again, a 2020 level of staffing, maybe 2018 level of staffing, anyway, somewhere in the middle there, what amount extra would this be that we need to go find or request from the mayor and commission?
Don't have those numbers in front of me, but I can try to work on them and get them to you via email.
Thank you. And it just like wild ballpark numbers are fine with me. I know to the penny is not. I'm just curious. Are we asking for $1 million? Are we asking for $1,000? You know, some order of magnitude there. But thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Would you like to speak on what you were going to speak on before you started typing?
Thank you. I went ahead and addressed that.
Okay, we got you. Okay.
Madam Chair, may I ask a question?
Yes.
Charlotte, have we had HR in these conversations related to part-time poll workers?
We spoke with HR early on and was just told to consider the fact that they are doing a job study, a pay study. Because number one, I had concerns because I have employees who don't make $16 an hour. So I definitely had to reach out to HR to figure out how we needed to handle that. And again, they suggest that we wait, but that's what I was told.
I think the HR director, if I'm not mistaken, came to a meeting and maybe spoke about it a little bit. Is that correct? I can't remember. Did he explain like a time frame or a schedule about how long we should wait?
There was not a time frame given at that time.
Okay.
Rocky?
I believe that the idea of the 50 cents came from the HR director, and I believe Mr. Jones, you were also in attendance at that meeting. And the recommendation for 50 cents differential between the three came from him as a recommendation to not go so extreme, but it is within our authority to make that decision.
Understood. If we could make that clear, Charlotte, that this was a recommendation that came from the HR director, because I think that would hold a little more weight.
Attorney Pappas and then Adam, I think.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Raffle, as far as your motion goes, I would advise, instead of asking for sufficient funding, that the motion say something to the effect of the mayor and commission amending the budget to allow for the funding for a 50% increase in poll worker pay.
50 cent,
50
not
cents.
50%.
I'm sorry, I said 50 cent. It may have
You
sounded like
said-
50%, but
Okay.
50 cent, yes.
Yeah, I think that's great. If Adam, you could capture that for me, I'd appreciate that. And you made another point at the beginning. What else? You said two things. Do you remember, Miss Pappas?
I said two things. I said
think you
that I
did.
to amend the motion to talk about asking the mayor commission to amend the budget to add funding
Oh,
to
the
increase.
second thing was in my head.
Okay.
Could we add an additional line that says amend the budget to the director's recommendation?
Adam?
Right. Minor
Estimate.
wordsmithing there. Do we mean Director Sosby or Director Hale, Human Resources?
Director Sosby, and don't use the word recommendation, estimation is what I meant to say. Her estimated cost of what this would be.
I
There we
see.
go.
I see.
Yeah, I used the wrong word, so that's why we're further confused.
Yep. Thank you, Rocky, for clearing that up for us.
Amend the budget. Madam Chair, if I might, I want to, this motion is growing, and I want to be sure that I'm catching each thing we're adding in there. It currently reads, motion by Mr. Raffle to ask the mayor and commission to amend the budget to add funding in the amount of Director Sosby's estimation in order to, effective immediately, provide change poll worker pay to, and then the numbers that we've been saying. Is that getting at what you want to get at? I see a thumbs up. Awesome.
I may have missed this, but is there an intent for this to go on to the next mayor commission agenda?
Well,
Or is it supposed to go through the budget process?
I don't think the need is immediate because the election's in May, right? So I don't want it to get lost in the everyday work, but I don't think it's an emergency to put on an agenda next week for them.
Adam?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have two things, but I'll happily go do the first one and then wait in line for the second one. I appreciate Manager Jones, if I understood, if I took it the right way, the advice that you were offering in terms of improving the chances of success here. I'm seeing in my notes from our October 12th meeting when Director Hale was here, my notes that I scratched down were that the pay study is expected to come around early calendar 22, around February, March, April, and to have recommendations. That's what my notes showed, and I know pandemic makes everything different. My question is, for us, like I guess for those in the room who might have experience with human resources in Clarke County, what are the chances here that study coming out might recommend a greater pay raise than what we were fighting for here? And then we end up shooting ourselves in the foot because there's like, well, we would go for it, but you already went for the 50-cent raise. So we're going to let that stick for a year or two. I just want to be sure we don't end up trying too hard for this and end up hurting ourselves in the long run, if that makes sense.
Rocky, did I see your hand?
I did. We can add one more word in there then. Interim rate. Temporary, interim, something like that to address your concern.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, if I may,
Yes.
Mr. Shirley, you asked a good question. What happens if the pay study comes out and recommends something higher than the 50-cent increase that Director Hale, I believe, mentioned at the October meeting? I'm not an HR person, so I can't really speak to that. I think at some point in time, we would have to make those two things. I learned a new term since I've been here in Georgia, GHAW. We would have to make sure they GHAW. And I don't know the mechanics around that, but I think that's why the manager's office would certainly recommend we wait till we get into the budget process and wait till the study has been approved. to ensure that we're all on the same page. Either way, I think we're going to be able to make it work, but it would be a little more simplistic if we just waited for the study to come out.
I think that what Rocky is saying about it being temporary or it being a fix until the budget comes out. Hopefully they won't be going down on what we suggested, but somewhere was to what we suggested or above that. Am I making any clarity here or sense?
And Mr. Raffle, you mentioned that the need for the pay would actually come in May, correct?
Yeah, the director or Director Sosby could probably tell me if it's sooner, but the May election is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, it'll start sometime in April because it starts with training.
Okay. Adam, Adam?
Adam, mute.
Mute.
Thank you. Sorry. Two things again. One, to restate the growing feature we have here of a motion, and then two, my thoughts on it. So currently I have motion by Mr. Raffle to ask the mayor and commission to amend the budget to add funding in the amount of Director Sosby's estimation in order to change poll worker pay to the numbers we said until such time as pay can be adjusted in response to the ongoing county pay study. Does that get it what you were saying, Rocky, most recently?
That's perfect.
Woo! And so my thoughts now, I definitely want to preserve higher pay for the poll workers and assistant poll workers than for the regular poll workers. I definitely support that. But I'm also thinking here of what this does, as we've heard, to other parts of Director Sosby's staff and how this makes them feel. As she said a few minutes ago, she has people who work in the building with her who don't make $16 per hour. And I know we can't do it all, and we have to do the most good we can for the most people. But I'm wondering, and this just kind of goes to you, Rocky, and then whoever else has any thoughts. If I would want to, I would be all for this categorically if there were a way we could also increase the pay for our permanent, non-temporary workers. But that's completely tied to the pay study. I get that. That gets into a whole different issue.
Yeah,
I don't want to make the perfect enemy of the good, but this also almost makes me want to not proceed with this because of what it does, how it makes our permanent workers feel. Those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm going to tiptoe around this kind of lightly. And I hope, my greatest hope is that there will be a greater pay than $15 an hour for our staff who actually work at these offices. But my brain kind of splits up on me sometimes. I also see the other side of it, that these people are part-time workers and they don't receive any benefits. So I do see reasoning behind the difference, because they are like short-term. They're not reaping any more benefits. And I'm not saying by any means that our own staff, should not have it. I truly hope that something, it moves along for them too. But I have to also look at the position that these people are in. And like I said, I don't want to step on anybody's toes, because I recognize the great work and the great job that our staff does.
Madam Chair, if I might add, the employees that I'm speaking of that work here in the office do not receive any benefits whatsoever.
Okay, that sheds another light on my conversation then. Yeah. Thank you for that information. Lisa, did I see your hand up? And then
Yeah, I mean, I could just add one little example to give you another little piece to think about. We're working really hard to hire 2 more area managers. Those area managers will most likely come from our poll worker pool. So being a poll worker, Charlotte can correct me if I'm wrong, they would make whatever their poll worker pay was. So let's say they were a manager, they would be making $17 an hour. I also, or 16, whatever you guys decide. I also have 2 area managers who are part-time temporary employees of the office. They will be making 15, doing the same job as the 2 area managers that I bring on from the poll working staff that will be making more than them.
Yeah.
So it creates all kinds of disparities. It's just a lot of things to think about.
It does, and I think that, oh God, if we could go back and change the past, I think that lots, and we cannot, but it should have been a lot more thought put into how this thing was structured, because it's causing all kind of problems. Rocky.
So I have 2 comments and a question. The way I approach this issue is it's yes, it's creating a lot of problems and confusion, but I think they're 2 separate issues. I'm a member of a board who has one specific thing we can be responsible for, and that's poll workers. So I want to do right by the poll workers, because if Lisa McGlawn would like to speak to this, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong in misinterpreting something you've told me prior, is that we've had poll workers that were managers and assistant managers before go, yeah, I'm just going to be a clerk because I'm making the same. So why do it? But creating that differential then makes them feel like they're being paid by a leader or as a leader, right? So yes, I fully recognize that it creates issues in the office, but we're not responsible for the folks in the office. That's Director Sosby's job. And she's, I'm assuming, doing the best she can. I can't speak to that, and it's none of my business. But what I can speak to is how I feel our poll workers should be treated. But Lisa, could you elaborate on what I said, Lisa McGlawn?
Yeah. So what happened was once a person is a manager or an assistant manager, they can't go backwards. They continue in that responsibility. But I asked people to move from clerk to assistant manager or from assistant manager to manager. And I did have a couple of people who told me no, because they didn't want the increased responsibility without the graduated pay. So that did happen, yes.
Mr. Raffle, if I could add, I think it's honorable, and I appreciate the fact that you understand your responsibility and you want to do right by the poll workers. But I must say that, removing the poll workers and Director Sosby's staff is almost impossible, right? They are intertwined. You all do have the prerogative to make any recommendation you want. But I would urge you to think through the disparities that would be created, and the type of environment that might create. So you all are trying to do the right thing. You all are smart people, but just that's staff's perspective.
Adam, am I cross-eyed by now, or did I see your hand up?
That was me crossing my arms. I'm sorry.
Waiting for
But I see Hank's arm. Hank's hand up, though.
Hank.
Okay, Hank.
My position has not changed since that October meeting. I totally see the disparity that it creates, and as much as poll workers are part of our discussion, I think the staff is as much. Until I clearly remember Director Hale saying that the study is going to come out March, April timeframe, and I think this can wait until then. I'm going to be voting against it. I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you. Thank you, Hank. Ms. Teal, do you have anything to move us forward on this, or put us in a comfortable place? I know that's asking a lot. Apparently not. Thank you, Ms. Teal. I
Yeah,
feel,
I'm sorry, I didn't hit the mute button. I'm just rattling on and nobody can hear me. But I like to listen to the wisdom of other people and then see what I can gain from their thoughts. And I think that everybody on this board and in the office, they're such wonderful people. I've never worked with such a finer group. And I think we all mean well by everything that we attempt to do. I think that from what I've heard, it would be good to wait. I know this election's coming up, but it would be good to wait and see what this board comes up with as to what they think changes might be made. And then that time, if we don't agree with it, I think we can intercede and make our voices heard that we think it's good or it's not good enough. And let's just sit back and bide our time and see what happens. I think would be the best thing right now.
thank you. Lisa?
I have one other little piece of information that might help. I'm sure that all of you are aware that our poll workers who worked during 2020 received a retention bonus. So they received a retention bonus of $1,000. So minus taxes. So that might be helpful for you to know that they've already received some compensation, even though, I mean, so it's a bonus to keep them on, to incentivize to keep them on as poll workers for another year.
Thank you for that piece of information. Yes. Now, I'm going to back up on my history here and probably speaking to the assistant city manager. And everybody, because I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but I just want to be standing on solid ground because it will help me to make my determination on how I vote on the motion on the floor. But originally, when they were upgraded, all of them were upgraded to $15 an hour. That came from the mayor and commission. Okay. Thank you. Rocky?
With that, the mayor and commission are smarter than us, some would say. And they knew what they were doing when they did that as well. They knew what it would create. So I have full confidence that most of them would probably grant the funding for this anyway.
Thank you, Rocky. I'm sorry. So if you would once again read the motion and we'll go forward to vote on the motion.
Yes, ma'am. I have the motion reading, motion by Mr. Raffle to ask the mayor and commission to amend the budget to add funding in the amount of Director Sosby's estimation in order to change poll worker pay to $15 per hour for clerk, $15.50 per hour for assistant manager, and $16 per hour for manager until such time as pay can be adjusted in response to the ongoing county pay study.
Thank you. That have
I'm
Adam.
so sorry, very small procedural thing. When I specify Director Sosby when we were talking about other directors of other departments, if we have any particular opinion one way or the other, we can just say the director instead of Director Sosby. I love giving her the limelight, but I don't know if that might, if we'd rather keep names out of this, but just asking.
Can I answer?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, for me, it's about the role of the person. That's why I speak in third person. It's about the role, not specifically the person in the role.
Okay with you as the one making the motion? Should I just replace that with the director?
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, it's implied, we're not talking about the director of whatever.
Right. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Do we have a second to the motion on the floor? It has been duly seconded. So if there is no more discussion on the matter, we will now have a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye and or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, would you signify by saying aye and or raising your hand?
Aye.
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 So the motion has failed, and by a vote of three against and 2 for. And Adam, if you would be so kind as to insert the names for and for those against for the record.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. All right, moving forward, new business, and that would be the presentation of the new district maps. And if you all are ready, Mr. D'Angelo, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just a couple of quick housekeeping issues related to the maps I'm about to show. One, I did provide some links in the chat earlier, and then also for those of y'all watching at home, you can at any time go to accgov.com/open data. And if you scroll about 2/3 of the way down the page, after going to accgov.com/open data, there's an area for featured content. And the very first piece of featured content under that heading is a rundown of the 2021 Commission redistricting process, complete with all versions of the maps from day one. For anyone's review and perusal, and then also the raw data is available for download at the same location. Just to give a recap, I guess since the last time we got together and y'all saw me, on December 7th of 2021, the map that you all agreed to forward to the mayor and commission for review and approval, and then ultimately for approval by the reapportionment office. A vote on that map was delayed 1 week. And so in the interim, we did hear back from the state legislative and reapportionment office with some proposed adjustments to what we had submitted. There were 4 adjustments in total. While relatively minor, they were also very granular. Like clearly the director, Gina Wright, from the reapportionment office, did study the maps and did have a few suggestions. That resulted into in changing some blocks to the tune of about 12 blocks total countywide. So again, minor in terms of changing lines. A lot of that actually were some zero population blocks that she just wanted lines moved one way or another consistent with geographic features on the ground. Literally our team made those adjustments while on the phone with Director Wright. You may have heard some talk about the map that you all approved not being the map that was eventually adopted by the mayor and commission. That's really not true. In order to achieve certification from the reapportionment office, we were asked to make those changes, and make those changes we did. But like I said, it was pretty much on the fly and at the direction of Director Wright from the reapportionment office. So we did get a notice of certification on or about December the 10th. On December the 14th, we went back to the mayor and commission, and at that time, as many of y'all know, the mayor and commission did adopt the maps, although not unanimously. In the interim, there was a Christmas break, obviously. On January the 6th, which I believe was last Thursday, we were wrapping up operations for the day, and we were notified at that time that the Republican legislative delegation from the General Assembly had gone ahead and produced a second map of its own, significantly altering the district lines versus 2012, and certainly significantly altering the lines versus the 2021 map that we all created together. We immediately requested the raw data from the State Legislative and Reapportionment Office. At that time, we didn't know anything. We didn't know the nature of the map. We had the same news release and PDF that many of y'all probably saw, most members of the public saw, but we didn't have the underlying raw data, and we didn't want to go ahead and perform any analysis on something that wasn't substantive and granular and accurate. So we did at that time submit a formal request for the raw data files. We had those files delivered to us by the reapportionment office January the 8th, Saturday morning at 11:32 a.m. As soon as we got them, we started working to process what we were seeing. We performed analysis kind of right up to the bell this afternoon, and so what you'll see is still a bit raw. It's not based on work that came out of my office. It is something that came from the reapportionment office by way of the Republican legislative delegation at the state level. So with that, I'd like to share my screen and just show y'all a few things. And certainly, like I said, I normally come with a pretty tight script in hand. Today, I do not have a script in hand, so certainly if you have any questions, feel free to interrupt. Feel free to ask those questions, and we may not have the answers on hand. And Ms. Martin is on the call as well today to try to try to help get to those answers as fast as we can, but we may have to kind of circle back to y'all at a later date and time if you have any questions that we maybe weren't anticipating. So we have on the screen now, I think you're seeing 3 different bar charts. And each of these bar charts represents some iteration of the 2012 district lines, which are the commission district lines that are currently in place, versus other iterations of the lines that have come about in the time since this process began. And so in this first chart at the left, we see kind of that aqua color bar. It's not even visible in some places, and that represents the percent change from the currently adopted maps, the 2012 maps, to the maps that you all approved in 2021. So you can see here, for instance, District 1. There's virtually there's very little change from one map to the other. District 2 is running around 11% and so forth. So a very small fraction of census blocks moved from one district to another district with the map that you all approved, and that was, if you recall, by resolution, that was our mandate together, was that we balance the maps in accordance with the one person, one vote principle. We make sure that the maps are compliant according to the Voting Rights Act, and then we move the lines minimally sufficient to meet the 2 objectives that I just mentioned. In the map put forward by the legislative delegation, we can see that, for instance, in District 3, the difference in terms of census blocks was almost complete. It was effectively 100%. In other words, the District 3 in the legislative contingent map is fundamentally completely different from District 3 in the currently adopted map that was produced in 2012. So that's this chart in a nutshell. In the second chart, we see the total population of each district as drawn according to the 2012 lines. And so you see that many of them are hovering around the 13,000 person mark, as would be expected. And then aside that number, we see the departure in terms of individual population for the legislatively developed map. I'm having a hard time figuring out what to call it. But again, for instance, in District 3, we can see that about 12,700 individuals are going to be in a different district from the district they're in currently, if that map is adopted. So you see here that District 9, kind of got away with the fewest overall changes in terms of population, with just under 2,000. And if you recall back to the map that you all approved and forwarded to the mayor and commission, the total change, the total number of people who, as we said at the time, wake up in a different district, that total number was under 5,000. Under the map proposed by the state, the delegation from the state legislature, that number is right around 90,000. It's about 89,000 and change. And here we see the same breakout by physical address, situs address. And so this is not voter address, and this is not residential address. This is simply situs address. And so we see, for instance, in District 1, under the 2012 lines, there are about 6,700 addresses. And in the map that you all approved, about 6,700 addresses remain the same. And then in the delegations map, that number dropped to about 3,100. So about half of the folks in District 1, their addresses end up in a different district. We've got a couple of other resources available. This is a district boundary comparison tool, and the way that this is intended to work, it's got a lot of different lines because the different boundaries are overlaid on top of one another. Also present in this map is the location, the home addresses of elected officials, which I realize to some who may be tuning in that sounds alarming, but those addresses are a matter of public record. And so we can see how they're located on the map versus the 2012 lines, the 2021 lines, which are the ones from the map that you all approved, and then the 22 lines proposed by the delegation. And so if I were to enter an address, I'm going to use 301 College Avenue, which is, as many of you know, the address for City Hall. I enter that address, the map is zoomed to that address, and then I see that my current commission district, according to the 2012 lines, is District 3. Under the map proposed by the state legislature, I would move to District 4, and under the map that you all approved, I would have remained in District 3. So my new commissioner in this case, it would shift from Melissa Link to Allison Wright. And so this works with any recognized address in the county, and it's available again for anyone to try out. The last thing I would like to show you all is, and you may remember this from our last go around, this is the demography map. And so it does show you percentage of minority population by district, and then under the proposed lines from, again, the the delegation. And then if we zoom in further, we can see kind of, again, by census block, the way things break out demographically on the ground. And you have to get to almost, this is a tougher map to use because you almost have to get to just the right zoom level for it to be really effective. That map is also available via the open data portal for individuals to examine. Are there any specific questions that you all might have regarding some of the data associated with these maps or the process itself?
On this last map that you put up, could
Yes,
you zoom in on the African American, Black or African American population?
I'm sorry, you would like me to zoom in on the Black or African American population
Yeah,
only?
with blue, with the indication of blue.
Well,
Am I looking at that correctly?
well, that is the color scheme that indicates you know, where individuals of the Black African American population reside. Yes, ma'am. But as you can see, that population doesn't exist in just one area of the county. It's widely dispersed.
Yeah, I understand that.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't see
Mr. D'Angelo, thank you so much for this. There were two things that I was thinking of. One I'll go with now. The graph, the bar charts that you shared, that y'all have prepared, especially the percent change, the first one. Am I correct in understanding that you prepared that based on, for example, I currently reside in what is called District 3. What will be called District 3 if these things get approved would be something in a completely different part of the county now. Was that the criterion you used when making that bar chart? Like, people in the district called 1, how many of those people will still be in the district called 1 in the new maps? Was that what y'all did when you made this?
Yes, sir. And so yeah, you bring up an interesting point. I think kind of the thing left unsaid that we can probably say now pretty confidently is that District 3 underwent a relabeling or renumbering exercise, right? And so that's why I'm saying, you know, in that particular case, what was District 3 enjoys no commonality in terms of either addresses or census blocks versus what had been, what actually is currently the 2012 adopted District 3.
I see.
And so to put it more succinctly, the District 3 that we knew is no more. Like, I don't think that's that's hyperbole. So actually, if we can, and I apologize. There's some dog noise happening here that I'm gonna have to just power through.
For what it's worth, it's not coming through on my end. Not really at all.
Okay.
No.
Maybe I should have mentioned it. So we can see here, everything that has a pastel color is an area made up of census blocks that would change in terms of district assignment under the legislature proposed map. So everything that doesn't have a pastel color, everything that's kind of in this charcoal gray, will remain the same. Everything that has a color is going to change.
I see. That's pretty drastic changes then. To wrap up my comment, I'd be curious to see, and I understand as we're talking about this, I am a collaborator of yours, right? Like, we work together on this thing, but yes. I understand, like, I don't have there's no directive here that we have no power at all over this now, in many senses. But I would be curious as a citizen to know how easy it would be for you all, for the office, if you were directed to make a report that showed how many people who were in the, not so much the number 3, but like the same commission district, how many folks, I don't know, and maybe this is showing that, but I'm just not seeing it. How many people are going to have a different commissioner? How about that, right? Like, I don't think so much about the third. I just know that I contact Commissioner Link when I have something going on with the county, right? So I wonder, that's the more dramatic shift to me, rather than number 3 becoming number 5 or whatever. So that's just a comment that I'll leave there. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Adam.
Well, I will say that, yeah, I mean, the thing is, in that particular case, District 3, the way we see it, and maybe this is an erroneous way of seeing it, everybody who's currently in District 3, 12,674 persons are going to be in a different district from the current District 3
What
in
was
that particular case.
what was the breakdown on that 12,000? How many other districts would they be in?
That's a good question, Madam Chair. I don't have that off the top of my head, but if we were to look at this map, I would say that most of them would end up, or a lot of them would end up in District 2.
Do you have a number on that? I mean,
I
I
don't-
just the same question, and why my interest is piqued because I live in District 2. That's my own personal question I'm asking. So
I don't have an exact number, but it's a lot, and it's going to be probably in the 5 digits.
okay, let me think how I can ask this. So when we were doing the maps, we tried to level it off as close as possible where it would be just about the same amount of people in each district. So if a large number of people are going into District 2, what happens? That's the influx. So what does it look like on the other end of the outflow if that was one of the things that needed to be maintained when we were doing the maps? Is there any outflow from District 2 of people?
Well, yes, ma'am. The outflow from District 2 is significant. Again, in the 5 digits to the tune of, so again, if we just take it where the folks who are in District 2 currently today, as it is drawn, if the January 6th map were adopted, the number of folks who would change districts that had been in District 2 is 10,940.
Was that in order to comply with the 30%? I'm asking about non-white of minority. Was that done in order to comply with that? Because District 2 was already in compliance.
Ma'am, I realize that a lot of my answers sound trite, but
no, no. If you don't know, you just don't know. But I need to know that you don't know, so I won't keep asking.
I can't ascribe motive to the.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't even. And this is again.
I'm not actually asking about motive. I'm just asking if that many people were moved out of. If that many people, because District 2 is predominantly Black, as it was. So
and it'll as drawn, I will say it remains so.
Okay.
But and that is the thing. I don't know. I don't know exactly who drew this map.
Mm-hmm.
And so because I don't know who drew the map, I all I have is the raw information, and so I can't speak to how or why.
That's all I'm asking. You
yes,
know,
ma'am.
I
wish I could.
Yeah, I mean you don't have to for me. I'm just trying to put some stuff together in my own head, and your answer was a good answer, for what I'm working out in my head.
And all I can tell anybody, again, anybody watching at home, go ahead and try it. Put your address in and just see what district you're in currently and what district you would be in under the other proposed lines. You know, I can tell you that I'm in an entirely different district than I am currently with different, well, as of if the map were to be adopted, as of next election cycle, as of right now, I don't know who my commissioner would be. And I think a lot of folks are in that boat, and I don't want to be alarmist, which is why I'm saying go ahead and try it. Go ahead and put your address in, and anybody who's watching, and just see where things end up. But
thank you, Adam.
Yes.
Your hand.
Yes, ma'am. I see others with their hands up though.
I'm only having you guys help me out here because I'm not having a whole picture with where the hands are. Does anyone?
I believe I was next.
Okay, go ahead.
I've been waiting a while.
You might want to unshare.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, that would be helpful too.
Sorry.
I guess moving forward, if this were to be adopted, what would need to be done by us in regards to polling places and precincts? I know it would be nice for them to line up, but the people still live in their house in the county. There's still some regularity there. And then that's a comment. And then my other question is, I believe we had 3 majority minority districts as it currently is. Do you know if the proposed map maintains that?
So working from the data that was provided via the news release, it looks like there are 4 what the release calls minority opportunity districts, which can be considered to be synonymous with majority minority.
Okay, so I may have missed the first part of your answer. Perhaps you don't know. You said it was 3 or 4. So essentially they've done away with the 3 majority minority and now have 4 opportunity. Am I understanding what you're saying correctly?
It looks like the term minority opportunity is being used interchangeably with majority minority or intended to be used that way by whoever wrote the release.
Okay, so you don't have the data to actually tell us. You're just going off the press release that we all have. You don't have the data to say, well, now there's 2 or now there's 4. Right.
It looks like, as drawn, it looks like there are 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Looking at it. Okay, because it was my understanding that it was illegal to undo those once they're made. Isn't that like a federal election law, or is that just a best practice?
I'll defer to Director Sosby on that one. I'm not completely sure on that.
It has been, but I'm not sure if that has changed since the requirements that's done through the U.S. Justice Department has changed.
Thank you.
I saw Hank and then I saw Adam.
Quick question for Mr. D'Angelo. Given time and once it is approved, I suspect you will be able to provide the data whether the 4 districts are majority, minority, and so forth.
Yes, sir. We do have as you've seen, we do have the demographic information. We just haven't gotten to the point where we're able to aggregate it and confidently bid it to say yes, this is good. We're really close. Not close enough to publish it though.
I just feel bad that we made you do all that work, which was almost for naught. And That's why we were looking at some different maps at the beginning without using best practices. But because of the mandate, I think we went off in the wrong direction. But I think in the end, none of that would have mattered because the legislator obviously had other intentions of how they wanted to redraw the district. So
I think we can all feel proud of ourselves in that we followed the letter of the resolution and we followed the letter of the law. And I have to take that as sufficient consolation.
Adam?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm pretty much gonna echo a lot of what Hank just said. I am feeling, my initial temptation is to be dismayed by this and just say, kind of throw my hands up and say, wow, there went X number of hours of my life, right? That we all sat in a room together, different rooms together, with markers, Crayola markers, and maps on the walls. But I'm being flippant about that because I'm not letting that get me. There's a lot more writing on these maps than we can talk about right now. But for the actual, I don't despair about what we just did because I learned so much. I have a newfound appreciation for what goes into your job. I hope we didn't drive you too crazy. And I really appreciate understanding just like the different levels of power, right? The different levels of rules. We learned the difference between rules and guidelines and best practices. And we were given an edict that we had to follow, but different people who have more power than we do aren't beholden to the same resolution. So thank you so much. Just from me individually, thank you so much, Mr. D'Angelo. It was an excellent experience. And I'm sorry that we have to sit here and say, oh man, we're tempted to say it was all for naught, but thank you. It was a really worthwhile exercise to me.
Thank you all. We are appreciative of this experience.
Thank you.
Ms. Martin, am I missing anything?
No, not at all. And yes, thank you for your comments. That makes us feel a whole lot better.
Thank you so much, all of you. Thank you, Adam, for your words. And I think that probably reflects the majority of how the board is feeling in appreciation of the staff. Are there any other questions for Mr. D'Angelo? If not, you guys are welcome to continue to stay with us or be at your liege. And thank you again so very much for you all coming and for the great work that you did on the maps. Thank you,
Madam Chair. We're going to jump over to the Mayor Commission meeting, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You all too. All right. We come to the part of our new business, election of board leadership for 2022. At this time, we will have nominations for the board chairperson. And the floor is open up for nominations for board chairperson. Hank?
Madam Chair, before we even start with the nomination, first of all, I just, after I received the agenda, I realized we were going, or I should have known that this is an annual process, but I had completely forgotten that it's done in January. So I would like to have a little discussion right now, just a brief discussion amongst us board members as to what is the primary purpose of our electing the officers in the way we have, or we are proposing to do today again. Sometimes it's great to have an annual change just so that everyone has experience. New leadership sometimes helps, sometimes doesn't. Or is there another reason for the change?
It's actually mandated by our bylaws. It's in our bylaws.
Okay. Well, that is, yeah, we're going to take a vote, but I just was looking for more of a discussion as to, what are we looking for in terms of leadership for next year? Will it be any, are we looking to go in another direction where, with our board or not? I'm not quite sure like you said, it's just a process we are going through, but I'd like to have everyone else's views on how we should go about voting on this. If you all have any, I don't know, I'm not quite sure exactly what I'm asking, but I was hoping that.
Well, me personally, this is what I feel. If I'm nominated, I will run, and if elected, I will serve. If that does not happen, I will support anyone who is chosen for each and every office.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I think you have been an excellent chairperson, and I feel like we have all grown and become better board members under your tutelage. But I do want to mention what Hank has brought up about different board members experiencing and growing. And I think that it would be my desire if each board member had the opportunity to be in different positions, and that would give us more of an understanding of how the board works and what kind of experience, intentions, and good and bad at being in these different positions. Everybody except Adam. We want Adam to stay where he is. But I think it would be good for the board members and give them the experience and maybe make better board members if we did sit in different positions, if that makes sense to anyone.
Madam Chair.
I was,
Madam Chair.
but I did recognize you, Adam.
Oh, sorry, I couldn't hear you then. Sorry about that. I am happy to discuss what Hank brought up, what Ann brought up, but I didn't know which way you wanted to go. Do the election and nominating first, do the discussing first. For what it's worth, I'm game for any of that.
Also, and I think it would be appropriate if, if the discussion transpired before, that's just my thinking on it. Either any way that you guys want to do it, I'm satisfied with that.
That's why you've been such a good chairperson.
Rocky, do you have anything to add or say?
Yeah, I am willing to serve in either role. I think we have a professional secretary, so I'm not sure I would make the best secretary, but I agree with the points that both Adam and Ann have made so far, that learning new aspects and doing new parts is helpful to the board's growth and working together. I think another thought that's coming up to me while we're discussing this is perhaps we should look, once we get through this on another meeting, is look at amending the bylaws to possibly making the terms 2 years. I don't know if that's out of standard practice, but then there's some more continuity to it and a little more continuation.
We have to think about the fact that how we rotate off. If we're rotating in a 2-year cycle, that would probably be a good suggestion.
Yeah, but that we could definitely have that conversation later, but that's another thought that comes to my mind on this. But again, I think you've done a wonderful job as chair. I think I did a wonderful job as vice chair. I'll just pat myself on the back. And the secretary, I don't even have words for that.
Yeah. Adam, you got it for as long
Yeah.
as you're here, I'm sure. Thank you so much for the work that you do. Look at Alita.
I don't think I can be on the board with another secretary. I really don't think so. I don't think I could be as effective, whatever that means, with another secretary. But, but once again, yes, it does bring the question of experience, continuity, succession, although some of these things are not entirely in our control.
Sorry, if I could add one more thing, Madam Chair. I didn't know about this. I mean, I should have, but I didn't know about it until this afternoon that we were even doing this. So I hadn't had enough time to process this whole thing. If I remember correctly, last year, Judd Drake sent us an email in maybe December. Is that 2020? Possibly November, advising us that this would need to come up and the procedure in which we would conduct this. And I learned about it by seeing the agenda. So.
Yeah, it's an annual thing according to our bylaws, which is done in January, at the January meeting.
Oh, okay. So it cannot be tabled to February.
No, I'm afraid not. And I don't think that would be fair to the person who's going to hold this office. I think that they should, as much as practical, serve a full 12-month term.
Okay.
I mean, that's just how I feel about it. I think we had just a little bit of pre-discussion, maybe beforehand, before, we got down the road about it. But as I said, and I'm bringing this up again, it might be it might be a good thing, because we can always change our bylaws. We can do a motion to change the bylaws. And I don't know particularly, I think someone mentioned it, but I think maybe, I'm not quite sure when each one of us is rolling off the board, but I do know that we do serve the members that are specifically selected by the mayor and commissioners. I do know we serve a 4-year term. I don't know how the Democratic and the Republican Party appoint the people that they send. I don't know whether it's yearly, 2 years, or whatever, I don't know what, 4 years, it's 4 years also. Thank you. So it's probably possible that it could be changed to a 2-year term.
I understood that the parties could switch a representative at any moment.
I really don't know, but I saw some maybe that the parties are for 4 years, but I would have to ask Ms. Teal and Rocky to speak to that.
Yeah, I'm actually filling. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ann.
As far as I know, it's a 4-year for each one of us on the board.
Thank you, Ann.
Yeah, and I'm filling a term of Mocha Johnson, who ran 2.5 years ago, I believe. Something, I don't know. Time is escaped me from there, but I will not, when my term is up, I will not have served a full 4 years.
I'm also finishing out someone's term.
Okay.
Sorry, and can you please repeat that? I didn't quite catch what you said.
Rocky and I have each been appointed by our parties to fulfill the remaining part of another person that was in the Republican and Democrat spot, but still I only fulfill to the end of his term, which would be the end of 22 for me.
Adam?
Thank you. I guess trying to join the conversation about what Hank mentioned and what Ann mentioned, I think that I'm always game for revising our bylaws. I don't do it lightly, but yeah, it's everything in there. It's a living document. We can change it. And I've kind of penciled in for our February agenda, the tentative agenda, that we might discuss whether we wanted to make it a 2-year term for each of the offices, something like that. And as far as if I understood what Ann was mentioning, just asking what she was curious about our thoughts, I think you said about where we are, the seat that we've been in, what we're thinking. I am so happy to hear you say that you like me, you really like me, that you approve of the job that I've been doing. I have really enjoyed it. I'm a spreadsheet and document nerd, and so I like it. I would, if there were interest from the board, I would be honored to continue to serve as secretary. I have no interest at this time in serving any other position, but if someone else wanted to be secretary, all of y'all, I'm just thrilled to be on board with y'all again for another year. You all could do any one of these jobs. So, but
Yeah.
like you all have said, Will did a great job. Rocky's done a great job. So yeah, I'm thrilled about this.
Okay, is there any more discussion? If not, so it puts us where we were a few minutes ago. The floor is now open for nominations for chairperson. Adam?
Adam?
I'll yield to Ann.
Ann?
No, you go ahead because she must have seen your hand. You go ahead.
Oh, thank you. I nominate Willa Fambro for a chairperson.
Thank you. Are there any more nominations?
I think, although Willa has done a fabulous job, that it would be nice for us to rotate everybody except for Adam. We want to keep him where he is. But I might like to see Rocky as chairperson and Willa as the second, because they both have done such a great job, and I think that it would give everybody a little bit more experience.
And I'm going to have to stop you. That will come up in our discussion. But at this point, the floor is open for nominations. Now, I will call for a discussion after the nominations, and you have an opportunity to speak on those subjects.
All right. I'd like to nominate Rocky for chairman.
Thank you. Are there any more nominations? If not, that will close out the nomination. Is there any discussion before the vote? All right.
I'm wondering, I did have a procedural question.
Yes.
I hate to put Miss Aletha on the spot, but could we send our votes to her in the chat and she can tally them? Is that a possible? Oh, Ann, you're on the thing though.
Send them to her in the chat, and what would happen after that?
Never mind. Never mind. Forget it.
Okay.
Disregard.
Okay. Ann, you were about to say something?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All those in favor of the first nominee, would you signify by saying aye or raise your hand?
And that nominee is Willa Fambro, correct?
Yes, that's the first nominee. I'm sorry, Willa Fambro.
Aye.
Aye. All those in favor of Rocky Raffle for president, for chairperson, would you signify by saying aye or raising your hand?
Aye.
Aye.
So the vote is 3-2, and Rocky is our new chairperson. And at this point, I will yield the floor to our new chairperson, Rocky Raffle.
Madam Chair, could I yield back to you for the remainder of the meeting? Would
My
you?
question would be why? Because I worked for 12 months.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm just saying that you were in the middle of the election. We could let you, I mean, we're almost done, so, but it's up to.
I want to ask Ms. Pappas, am I doing that correctly? Can I do that? Can I yield the floor in the position at this
You
point?
can.
Okay.
Okay, well, thank you for the votes, and up next on the agenda is the nominations for vice chairperson. We'll open the floor for vice chairperson.
I'd like to nominate Willa Fambro for vice chairperson.
I decline.
Okay. Do we have any more nominations, or if no others would like to make a nomination, I'd be happy to make a nomination.
I would like to nominate Ms. Teal.
I decline.
Well,
Thank you, but I decline.
okay. Are there any more nominations for vice chairperson?
I'd
Ms.
like
Shirley?
to nominate Hank.
I decline.
Okay. Well, let's move on to secretary, and we'll come back to that. Miss Pappas, could you think of some advice while we conduct this secretary election? The first thing that comes to mind is, are we allowed to do a co-chair, have two co-chairs and one secretary? That's the question for you, but we'll do the secretary election and come back. So the floor is now open for nominations for secretary.
I
Ms.
nominate Adam Shirley.
Okay. Are there any more nominations? Our assistant secretary seconds that. Are there any more nominations? Okay, hearing no more nominations, let's open the floor for discussion in regards to the secretary position.
I think we already had the discussion.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's call a vote for secretary. All those in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Mr. Shirley, did you place a vote?
I felt embarrassed voting for myself, so
Okay.
I abstained.
Okay. So that was 4-0. Mr. Shirley is
4 and 1 abstinence.
okay. Yeah, so it's 4 in favor, no against, and 1 abstain.
Mm-hmm.
So, Mr. Shirley, you are the Secretary of the Board of Elections. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Pappas, do you have any words of wisdom for our vice chairperson situation?
So according to your bylaws, you have to have a vice chair and you cannot have a co-chair. So
Okay.
you do need to elect a vice chair.
Okay. All right. So given that Ms. Pappas, can one person hold 2 offices, specifically a secretary?
No, there has to be 3 separate officers according to your
Right.
bylaws. And just as kind of a reminder, the vice chair And I'm sure you already know this, but the vice chair would just sit in if Rocky Raffle, as the chairperson, cannot be present for a meeting, then the vice chair would run that meeting.
Does the vice chair have to be appointed today?
Ms. Pappas, could you answer for us?
I would advise yes, simply because your old vice chair was Mr. Raffle and he is now chairperson, so he cannot hold two offices.
Okay. So given the information we've just heard from our legal counsel, I will once again open the floor for nominations of vice chairperson.
I nominate Ann Till.
I reluctantly accept it, but you probably will be very sorry that you have done that. But we need to move ahead, and maybe at some point in the future, somebody else can step in and take it. But for today, I will take it.
Okay. So Ms. Till has accepted the nomination. I would like to open the floor for discussion. And then we will take a vote if anyone has any discussion or if Ms. Till would like to say anything further.
I don't have anything else.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to say, I wonder if it's a historic occasion that we have members of the two party who are going to be the chair and the vice chair. I just find that situation slightly unusual, and yeah, I don't know why.
Well, I'd call it the definition of bipartisanship then.
Yes.
How about that?
I think Ann will make a great vice chair.
Excellent.
I've got some property I'd like to sell you by the lake.
It is the lake, is that what you're saying?
Can you swim?
Girl, I can't swim. If you see me in the water, I got on 3 life jackets.
I'm a horrible swimmer too. Okay. I am going to say that we close discussion on the election of a vice chairperson and call for a vote. All those in favor, raise your hand or indicate yes by saying aye.
Aye.
Ms. Till, do you wish to place a vote?
I abstain. Okay,
thank you. So Ms. Ann Till is elected the vice chairperson of the Board of Elections. 4 in favor, 0 against, and 1 abstain. So with that, we have our new slate of officers for the 2022 year. Now the next item on our agenda and the last one before the announcements was the discussion that happened over email. I'm happy to start that. I was intending on it, but now that I'm chair, I'd like someone else to start that discussion. I hope you know what I'm referring to. Otherwise, I would be happy to just speak. Mr. Shirley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The discussion that I believe, cut me off if I'm wrong, the discussion that I believe we're referring to, I began with a request. Basically, the problem that I had perceived just learning from staff and the pandemic was that we have a problem with staffing shortages for poll workers in particular. We're always hard pressed to fully staff. Always since I've been aware of our elections since 2020. We've been constantly hard pressed for workers, and we have been discussing. I was asking what specifically with regards to flexibility in scheduling. Hank had asked about something else that he could speak to. Was that the conversation you're talking about?
Not quite. It was about personnel issues. There was some Yep. Now you're on the same page. That's okay. Would you like to speak to that or someone else? And if not, I'm happy to speak to that.
Yes, sir. So the last that I'd heard, the way it was left, it was staff had come to us with a request that something be considered. And the last that I understood I'd heard was that they had said that it seemed like it was going to be something that was going to be handled by staff and we would be approached if they needed something from us. but I might be mistaken.
Yeah, that's what I understood too. Does anyone else have a comment? Any of the other board members? Okay, so what I was going to say on that is I think there might have been some misunderstanding from the beginning of that email chain. I know that staff had requested that of us. And then it was kind of misunderstood that we were talking about something, and then it was, should we go into executive session? Should we not? And my thinking was, though, the board, well, actually, before I share my thinking, Lisa or Director Sosby, is it okay if Lisa speaks to her thinking on that, or would we? Because she better explained it to me. Lisa, you're muted. Are you just saying no?
No, I'm not saying no. It's just I'm not really sure. What started the conversation was a conversation between Charlotte and I about who is responsible for the hiring and termination of poll workers. And we were under the impression that termination should be handled by the board. So I asked for it to be an agenda item. And then
Okay.
later confirmation from Attorney Pappas was that it's actually Charlotte's responsibility.
Okay. I understood that it was ultimately, and I could be wrong, that it was ultimately the board's responsibility. Well, it was Charlotte's responsibility at the direction of the board. So
There's
is
some
that
confusion about
incorrect?
it. So anything that Lisa can add would be helpful to me at this point too.
And then the other thing that I had was perhaps we could act as an appeal panel to these people if they want to appeal their removal as poll workers. That's all.
So whatever the process is, I'm sure that, I'm not trying to speak for Charlotte, but I'm sure that staff is more than happy to do what we need to do and to follow the rules with that. So.
Okay. I saw Hank's hand go up, and then I wanted to follow up with Ms. Pappas after that.
Yeah, just basically like to hear Director Sosby say, do you need the board for this particular process, or are you okay with going forward?
I am okay with going forward, and I wanted it to be clarified or confirmed whose responsibility it is. And basically what it is we have some poll workers who were trained and were assigned to polling locations. They were no shows. And it put us in a very difficult situation.
Yes.
Because we had precincts that were not equipped with workers, not enough workers at some places. And then if it was an assistant manager, we had to promote somebody who's a clerk who had been trained as a clerk to do an assistant manager's position tasks. And it just put us in a very difficult situation. So we want people to take these positions a little more serious. And my thing is, if they don't show up, I mean, that could cause us some problems with the Secretary of State's office. I mean, we could be in violation. So this is the reason why this came up, even the issue of terminations.
Okay. Well, as far as I'm concerned, you have my blessing because you have the data as to what happened, what did not. In case it gets to a point where you feel the board should should comment on it or give guidance, I'm sure we would be absolutely delighted to.
Okay. Does anyone have any further comment on that? All right. The next.
I would like to hear from Attorney Pappas.
Oh yeah, sorry. Ms. Pappas, you are my furthest or final comment.
Thank you, Chairman Raffle. And just to kind of reiterate the information that I sent you all in the email when Charlotte reached out about whether or not the board needed to approve the termination. I looked at the Georgia statute as far as the responsibilities of the superintendent as the Board of Elections is. That is not included as one of your duties in OCGA 21-2-770. And then I also looked at the local legislation that created the Board of Elections. And in section 8, specifically in that, it indicates that the supervisor of registration and elections, which would be Director Sosby, shall be the chief executive officer and shall generally supervise, direct, and control the administration of the affairs of the office. So my interpretation of that is that then gives Director Sosby, by directing the affairs and the administration of the office, the ability to hire and fire. She's also given the ability to hire just based upon her position as director of Board of Elections. So the board does not need to approve or move for the termination of workers. That would be within Director Sosby's job description.
Okay. So Ms. Pappas, what about, so your interpretation of that law, what I learned in our convention, there are some, or many rather than some, boards of elections that are working boards that don't have the luxury of a staff like we do. How does that apply, your interpretation of it apply in that case then?
They may have a different
Or is this from the county charter?
This is from the local legislation that actually creates the Athens-Clarke County Board of Elections, not a general Board of Elections. So this is what specifically applies to Athens-Clarke County. For those other working boards, they may have different local legislations that created them.
I understand. Okay. If there are no further comments, we can move on to announcements. All right, our February regular meeting is on Tuesday, February 8th, 2022 at 4:30 p.m. and that will most likely be a virtual meeting, as is this. And a few upcoming voter registration deadlines for upcoming elections, important to note for the public and any groups that are concerned with those dates. For the May 24th election, it is April 25th. And it is additionally April 25th for the deadline to register in order to vote in the June 21st runoff, if there is one. And then May 23rd is the deadline to register in order to vote for federal contests in the June 21st runoff, if necessary. But will we have those here? Or the director is not in her chair.
I'm here. Yes, it's possible that we would have a runoff, and if we do, that would be the date.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that. And with that, we can adjourn the meeting. So we will ask for a motion to adjourn. I think Mr. Shirley, whoa, hold on. Yes, Director.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I forgot to ask y'all something. So the conference is going to be March the 20th through March the 23rd. It will be hosted at the Classic Center, so we'll be local. And we just need to know no later than, I guess, Friday, if you're planning to attend the conference. On Sunday, they're going to be teaching a new directors and superintendent and voter registrar class, or they're calling it elections entry or something like that. And then, of course, the session will start on Monday morning. And then on Monday afternoon, after the close of our session, we will have our business meeting, our annual business meeting. And then on Tuesday, we'll reconvene. On Tuesday evening will be a banquet that a lot of our staff members are organizing. And then on Wednesday, we will close out at noon. It's a lot of great topics. Some are different than what we had last year, but we're just trying to get geared up for the 2022 elections. and to just do better at what we do, learn more and go over the new legislature and different things like that. So I hope everybody can attend.
So
Shall we
just
do a
looking-
quick poll on the members that are available to attend so staff has an idea?
Yeah, I am.
I'm intending on attending because it's right down the street.
Yes.
Mr. Shirley, you probably don't know because of work.
I probably will attend.
Nice.
I will have a newborn at home, so I will
Oh,
most
yeah?
likely not be able to be there.
Okay. And then one more question for the director. Sorry. I had asked once upon a time, I'm not sure if it was in a meeting or not, but are you still involved with the board of that conference in some way?
I'm considered a past president, so I act
Okay.
as parliamentarian.
I'm wondering if there's an opportunity at that conference for board members to assemble together rather than staff members to maybe just have a cocktail hour and just share, network with other board members throughout the state. I think that would be really helpful to my professional growth.
Yes, I did mention that when we were planning for the conference, because I agree with you, that would be very beneficial to our board members. Because there are some sessions that we have that just redundant to y'all. I mean, you just don't deal with certain things, right? So
Right.
I did mention that, and I'm not sure how far that got because I missed the last pre-planning meeting. So if not this one, I'm definitely going to push for our 2023 conference, which will be held in December next year here in Athens-Clarke County. So.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. With that, are there any further announcements? Oh, Mr. Kadir.
Before we end, I would just like to say, specifically, I'd like to mention Willa Fambro, as it was such a pleasure and to have her as a chair of this. I remember following all of 2020. There were some difficult moments with the board, and throughout that year, how she pretty much redefined the Board of Election as how it should be conducted. And I just cannot imagine having a better board as how it was done last year. And I really appreciate that work and the effort she put in. And I'd also like to thank Assistant Manager Jones and Director Sosby with regards to the compensation for what they went out and the work they put in. So thanks to both of you, and thank you very much, Willa, because I know I learned so much, and one of the things I learned was that I know I'm not ready to be a chair or a vice chair. That's for sure. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, thank you, Hank. I certainly enjoyed the role that I played over the last year as chairperson, and I support our new chairperson fully. And if there's anything other than being the vice chair, I'm so happy to do it.
All right.
Fine,
Thank
I'll
you.
nominate you for secretary next time.
Oh, no, nobody's going to be voting on that, okay?
So.
All right. I echo the words of Mr. Kadir, and I think all of us would like to go eat dinner. So let's adjourn this meeting. Mr. Shirley.
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
There we go.
I second.
And is there a second?
Yes, I second.
All right. Second by Ms. Famro. All in favor, say aye.
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 Meeting is adjourned. Have a nice evening, everyone.
Everybody, thank you.
Thank